What is going on, fellow alchemists? Welcome to Quasi Astrology. Today we be talking about the 12th house, the dark hidden stuff in our lives. But we bring in the light with us. It's the sun in the 12th house. So the sun in the 12th house, what does that mean in your chart? Well, what is the 12th house firstly? The 12th house has to do with things that are hidden. This is our part of our chart where we normally can't interact with directly. It's the subconscious. The reason it's the subconscious is because this is the part of the chart that's ruled over by Pisces, the deep mutable energy. Now, if you were to use a metaphor, Pisces is the bottom of the ocean, Mariana's Trench, the darkest, the deepest point in your chart. This is where abstract thought doesn't form. This is the point of the subconscious before it hits the 11th house, where abstract form starts to make its comeback. However, in the 12th house, this is where everything forms its own light and emits its own light. It doesn't receive light. It doesn't take in light. It gives off light if it can generate that from within itself. So the 12th house is things that we take from our past lives and we bring into this life. A lot of the time you can see who you were or what sort of life or conditions you lived by looking at the nature of your 12th house. And so it's not necessarily so prominent in your life because it's all happening behind the scene, behind the veil of secrecy, behind the veil of the unknown and the subconscious. So when you live a good life, you usually can see this in the purpose of how it comes out in your next couple of incarnations. It's the progress, it's the level in which we develop. So whenever you think of the 12th house, always think of the collective consciousness, the group consciousness, the universal connectivity of all things. This is why the 12th house is so hidden. It's so hard to interact with the 12th house because it is part of the whole. And we're here to experience the individualism away from the whole. So just keep that in mind, that the 12th house is all the hidden things in our lives, all the hidden things in our past incarnations, and in the things that we are building up towards in our progressive, consecutive sequel to this kind of incarnation that we're currently experiencing right now. So what happens when the sun, Surya, the solar deity, comes into the 12th house? Remember, the solar deity or the sun in our chart, the Atmakarka, is only displayed and seen later in our lives usually because we have to go through progressive stages of development in order to encompass and deal with that solar radiation, that solar light in our chart more appropriately than if we say just started off with it, because we need to learn how to mature and become a part of it. Initiate our true ego, our true soul purpose into our lives. And the reason why it's so hard to do that is a lot of the time the social construct of society tells you not to be who you really are. So unless you have the foundations, you have the support from a young age, and people have helped you grow, you usually don't see this really becoming part of your life until your mid-30s, sometimes even into your 40s. Because not only are we dealing with societal influences, but more importantly, we're dealing with our ascendant and our moon sign. These things tend to affect us a lot more in our early stages of development and right through into our young adult stages before we take that step, before we're able to really take and be brave enough to initiate that energy of the solar deity in our chart. However, again, you do get the exceptions of people who've had that foundation or who have such prominent, strong suns that they just radiate that energy regardless and live their truth. But when you bring authority, confidence, assurity, the solar warmth, that radiation, and you bring it into the 12th house of hidden things, this necessarily isn't the best placement for the sun, especially considering, again, when you consider the literature of Vedic astrology, they say that the radiation is hidden, the light is hidden, the warmth of the sun is hidden in the 12th house. However, what can happen, and in particular if we're stepping out of Vedic astrology, which is very good at pointing out the malefic aspects of things a lot of the time, we go back and we look at what the sun can do here. The sun becomes a part of the collective whole. Your objective is not to be the individual here. It's to be a node, a representation of the collective whole. And this can be very hard for those who have the 12th house, the sun in the 12th house, because of the influences of the universe. You're not just representing the collective, the collection of humanity, but you're representing the collective of the universe, the cosmos. So when there are things that happen in the cosmos, I can assure you, you will most likely be the one who feels it the most sensitive, yet the most powerful. You are both sensitive and powerful. And that, when the sun comes in here, it generates more power. It illuminates some areas of the 12th house that other people aren't aware of. And so you have an exceptional ability to deal with things in the psychic realm. You know, being a medium, or, learning psychic abilities or discovering psychic abilities. It's the part of the chart that deals with all the hidden things outside of the norm of reality. And so with the sun in the 12th house, you are looking at the depth. You are looking at bringing out the depth and trying to shine that light. But it can be hard because the sun gets lost in all of the collective consciousness energy. It's very hard for the sun to display its energy here, but if it manages not to be overshadowed by the sheer happenings and activities in the universe and the cosmos as a whole, then the sun can do really well here. The sun becomes our spiritual leader, our shaman, the one we look up to when we need to realize that there are other aspects to our physical world and reality, and that this reality is just a basic lower level of the physical expression of higher dimensional aspects. So the sun in the 12th house brings this out of its native, of the chart holder, and these people are amazing to be around if you're in the right mode or the right stage of your development. If you're not someone who has this position, but you're dealing with people who have this position, it's so nice to be around these people because they remind you that as hard as things get in this physical realm, it really doesn't matter in the greater scheme of things, because we all return to the whole. So for the alchemist, that's the last of the sun through the houses. I hope you really enjoyed that. Please don't forget to subscribe, drop a like if you enjoyed this video, drop a comment down below, tell us about how you experience and feel and what you feel about this position in your chart. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Take good care of yourself. Bye.